I've been wanting to do this 2-3 tone tumbler for a while. I've seen lots of different ways to attack it. I knew from the very beginning that I could not do a Carerra marble to save my life, and I probably couldn't lay on vinyl straight enough, so I was kind of hesitant. The other day I said, hey, you know what? I have an idea. I'm just gonna order my vinyl straight from Amazon. So that's what I did. Got the vinyl, slapped it on here, and glittered around it. I think it turned out pretty great. Wanna know how I did it? Watch. Starting off, I'm taking a 32-ounce plump from Steel Magnolia. It's one of the largest ones that they carry. It's very slim, it's straight edge, so I know that spinning this guy and wrapping the vinyl around was going to work in my favor, and I wouldn't have to wrestle with a curve or with an edge or a slant. So I thought this one would be perfect. Take your bare naked tumbler, take your sanding block, and give it a nice, brisk little sand down. You just want to break the shiny up. You just want to scuff it up just a little bit. You don't have to kill yourself. When you're done, spritz it with some alcohol just to get all the gunk off. You'll know that you did a great job when you wipe your napkin on there and it takes off a bunch of black stuff. Make sure it's squeaky clean, and I am not going to touch my tumbler anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and cheat and purchase a nice roll of Carerra marble vinyl. I got this off of Amazon. Lucky for me, there's grids on the back. So I'm just gonna cut right along this line right here and call it a day. Spread it on out. Now I know I'm not gonna use all of this vinyl, so I'm probably just gonna go ahead and cut it right in half and wrap it around my tumbler. Go ahead, peel it. Now I am not so worried about the straight line, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. I know I should be a little bit more disciplined, but turns out I got pretty lucky. Just give it a nice spin, and since this is a straight edge, it's just gonna wrap all the way around, nice and even. Now, don't worry so much about getting that straight line, or if you cut and it was a little jaggedy up top, you're gonna cover that up with some metallic vinyl, and I'll show you at the very last step. Pull out your trusty Arteza paint kit, and we're gonna give it a nice base coat wherever we wanna drop our glitters. Now, I know that my top glitter is gonna be a white and my bottom's gonna be kind of a nudie pink sort of glitter. I'm gonna grab my apricot and pull out my white. Bam, we got our two colors. I always put down a base color for my glitter because you want to get the most color to pop out of your glitter. So that's what I'm gonna do. Rarely do I ever put down glitter on a steel tumbler as is, because I feel like I have to do double layers of glitter and I just wanna use one layer. You know, save the glitter. Let's start off with the bottom and lay down our apricot. I'm gonna be nice and careful that I do not go too far up into my vinyl. Even though I'm going to cover this with a strip of gold, I still wanna make sure that I'm not leaving a huge glob of paint right at where the edges meet. Don't worry about the brush strokes. We're gonna hit it with a second coat as soon as this first one dries. Nice and even. This brush is a cheapy brush that I got from, you know what? I think I stole this one from my kids. This is definitely one of their watercolor brushes that I got in the kids Crayola section at Walmart. It's a pretty trusty brush. I like it a lot. All right, we are hitting the bottom of our cup because I want this glitter to go all the way down and wrap around the entire cup. There we go. We're done with that one. Let's start with our white. This acrylic is pretty thick, so you should get a nice consistent coverage. But if not, don't worry. Always put on a second coat if you're just not happy with it. Coming right up to the edge and dragging my brush down. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and let that guy dry. Now we have a nice dry cup. Let's go ahead and hit it with the Epoxy Method, and we're gonna drop our two colors right on there. Take your painter's tape and let's go ahead and section off our vinyl. That way we don't have to worry about getting epoxy on our vinyl and then glitter gets stuck everywhere. We want a nice clean line. So let's go ahead. I'm using artist tape because it's not so aggressive with the stickiness. rather than using regular masking tape. So I went ahead and I just put that on there. I'm going to be using Artist Resin by Counterculture. Let's go ahead and grab our medicine cup and measure out 10 mLs. This should give us some really good coverage on both top and bottom. Pour out equal parts, 1 part A and 1 part B, and give it a nice churn. I'm not so worried about the bubbles at this point because the glitter is going to lay on top of it, and we're going to hit it with a heat gun right afterwards. So turn it on up and let's get to glittering. Take your Girl, this is an NMO Vault favorite, and Greer. Both of these guys are heavy hitters in the NMO family, so I know that a beautiful cup is going to need some beautiful glitter. Now this is a longer cup, so I'm using Texas Laser Studio acrylic turner. They have these little parts that you can put for longer cups. If they're a little bit longer, they tend to sag sometimes. The arm just kind of droops naturally. So I just went ahead and put a little, kind of like a little crutch there just to hold it up, not so much pressure. And the other cup on the other side is just there to keep balance. Okay, now that our epoxy is ready to be applied, take your gloved finger and evenly add your epoxy to the top part of your cup. Try not to get so much on the tape. The tape is just there for insurance, because remember, whatever you epoxy, your glitter is going to stick onto that. And so I like to reserve my glitter as much as possible. Looks like we ran out. So that top part right there took a full 10 mLs. We're going to pop another 10 mLs down at the bottom. So total, you see about 20 mLs. I always like to drop my glitter from a medicine cup. I feel like I have a little bit more control when I am glittering on top of epoxy. All right, let it spin around, kind of see if you have any open spots that need to be hit. Epoxy is going to move naturally as it starts to cure, so you want to make sure you have a good, even coverage. That way you don't have to worry about bald spots as it cures. Any excess will fall off and you just put that right back in your container. All right, our other epoxy for our bottom part has already started to thicken up. So let's go ahead and drop him down at the bottom. A tip that I always like to do is let my epoxy warm up a little bit. By that, what I mean is just let your epoxy sit. Don't put it directly onto your cup right after you've poured it or started churning it. Let it start to activate. You'll notice that it's starting to warm up a little bit. It also will thicken, which will hold onto your glitter a whole lot better than if it were just to run off the sides. Okay, so I am putting a nice consistent coverage on here. It's gonna level itself out. Get ready for my Greer. And pop my paper down there because we want to catch all the little flyaways. And spoon this guy out. Let's see. Greer is a chunky, fine mix, so a lot of the fines are going to sit down first. I want to make sure that I'm spooning out enough and throwing on enough of it to kind of stick to it along with the chunkies. I'm patting down all of my Greer and kind of throwing some more up there on any bald spots that I see, and I'm making sure that I've pushed down all my glitter and helped it lay down. I'm gonna set my timer for 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, I'm gonna come back in here and I'm going to peel my tape off. I'm gonna help it along. My motor doesn't like resistance, so I'm just gonna keep it straight, keep it steady. And if you see that apricot, don't worry about that. We're gonna cover it up with some vinyl. Voila, nice and clean. Take your top tape off. Looking good. All right, this next step is pretty crucial. I always want to drop a very thin layer of Quick Coat from Counterculture. This is a very, very high quality, fabulous sealer. I put this on top of my glitter when I want it to just kind of stay put, not be tempted to fly off or wander whenever I put my flood coat on. I definitely want to make sure it's sealed in and it's not going to go anywhere. I am not gonna jump right on there. I kind of let this cure overnight. I wanted to make sure that the quick coat was absolutely dry, 150%. I've made the mistake of jumping on the quick coat too soon and putting down my epoxy and ruining a cup because epoxy doesn't play around. It likes to be the main attraction. So it definitely didn't get along with my quick coat when it was wet. So want to make sure your quick coat is super dry before you drop your epoxy on there. If you don't, you are risking your epoxy turning into Elmer's glue. So be patient, let it do its magic. I mixed up about 100 mLs of this epoxy for the first coat. I wanted to make sure that my top coat was super duper thick because I know that I already put a layer of quick coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and just jump all over a thick coat, put it down first, and walk away from it. Tap the bottom edge and top the top edge with your epoxy. I've noticed that the epoxy likes to run away from the edges, so I want to make sure that I get that super duper covered because I don't want any rough spots or any rough edges. That seems to be the #1 complaint of cups, that the cup feels very rough right at the base or very rough right at the mouth. So we want to make sure we have enough epoxy there. Once you're done epoxying, go ahead, give it a nice little pass through with your heat gun. I'm using a torch, fanning the fumes away, and I'm gonna torch it some more. Go ahead, let it spin, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, now that our epoxy has cured, because I put such a thick coat, I don't have to put another one. So I'm going to sand him down, give him a nice scuff up, make sure I sand down any of the spikies or shanky parts that might be floating around on the tumbler. But for the most part, you shouldn't do a whole lot of sanding. Spritz it again, wipe it down since I touched it. I have a piece of vinyl that I ran through my silhouette. I'm going to take these strips right here and let's break up our Greer in Carerra and break up our girl in Carerra. I'm just gonna eyeball it completely and let it wrap all the way around. And right when I think I've reached the end of it, I'm just gonna give it a nice snip. There you go. Same thing for the bottom part, right on top of our line and covering that baby up. Okay, give it one more spritz. I like to spritz a lot. Ever since I started doing this, I have avoided getting fish eyes, so that's just kind of what I do now. Turn your epoxy. Don't worry about the bubbles so much. We're gonna get them out with the heat gun here at the very end. But for now, take a gloved finger and lay down that epoxy. Get the whole thing covered. This is a big cup, so take your time. Make sure you run your fingers all over this cup to make sure that you have a nice even coverage. Don't forget the bottom of your cup. Drizzle the leftovers. It's gonna level out, so just keep throwing it on there. Voila. Take a nice little picture. Okay, now all that's left to do is just add your name if you want to personalize this. I went ahead and threw on a name decal, wipe it down again with some alcohol, and repeat the epoxy steps. I want to say that I used about 40 mLs to cover just a single coverage, light layer coverage, and I hit it with my heat gun, got all the bubbles out, and that's it. It's ready to be gifted. All in all, this project took me 4 days to complete. I did it in stages. I wanted to make sure every stage was fully cured, fully dry before I went on to the next one. So I would say that this project, this hack, was a success. What do y'all think? I hope Karen likes it. Karen, this is for you. You can find all of these products on the NicoleMarettOriginal.com website. You can also look at the description below. I did grab a couple of things from your handy dandy little Amazon store. So go ahead, look it through, see see what other kind of visual textures and vinyls you can find. I went ahead and did the Carerra marble. I had my girl, I had my Greer, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more like them. I will be catching y'all later. Bye.